Music from the wrong side of the tracks. This is a show that drags you through the gritty alleys of sleaze rock, gutter glam, and all forms of dirty rock and roll. We're here to crank up the volume and dive deep into the dirtiest, sleaziest, most glamorous rock and roll out there. Whether it's the classics or the underground hits, we've got you covered. And now, here are your hosts, Andy and Gary.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Rock and Roll Gutter Podcast. I'm your host Andy, and with me is my co-host Gary.
Hello peeps.
In previous episodes, we've covered bands that were from further back in time, maybe 70s, 80s, and we thought this time we'd do more current bands that are in this day and age creating new music that lives within the sleaze rock realm.
Excellent. Bands that are, kind of current.
Yeah, mostly doing a modern take on the same style of music.
Yeah, exactly. Well, current as current can be.
Right. So I'll be covering a band out of Wales named Sister Morphine, and Gary's going to be covering the band out of New York City, The Sweet Things.
Yay.
Sister Morphine was a band that was born in the heart of Wales glam rock scene way back in 1989. I know I said modern and current, but bear with me. 30 years after this band was basically forgotten, somehow managed to defy time, got their groove back, and returned to release some really killer glam punk music. Now, I'm not really sure how or where exactly I heard of Sister Morphine. It was definitely on Facebook and definitely in some sort of glam rock group, but there was talk of this album coming out from this long-lost glam punk band out of England. I was not familiar with the band at all, but read some interviews with the band, and it really got my interest up. As soon as the album was released, I ordered it and accidentally somehow ordered it twice. You're welcome, band.
Sister Morphine, is that not the title of a Rolling Stones song from the album Sticky Fingers?
You are correct, sir.
And is that where I'm assuming the band maybe got their name from, perhaps?
Yeah, I have to think that's exactly where they got it from, which, it works pretty well for this type of music.
Yeah, well, Sister Christian versus Sister Morphine.
Yeah. A real showdown, huh?
A real punch-up until Sister Morphine goes down and then obviously does not get back up again. I'm just
goes down, stays down. So I do have to say, initially when I heard the album, I wasn't really blown away. It's not that it was bad. I didn't think it was bad. It didn't strike me as anything new. It was nothing I hadn't heard before, but, I liked it well enough that I gave it a couple more tries. And I have to say, after each repeated listen, I really grew to love this album. I think it's really a fantastic piece of work, and I'm really glad I stuck with it and gave them a second, third, fourth, and fifth chance.
Well, Andy, when you turned them on to me, I had no inkling or clue who this band was, but, if you like them, there's a good chance that I'm going to like them, so thank you for pointing me in that direction. And I thought the same thing, I'm out in the yard doing mindless yard work, and I'm spinning the album. The first thing that comes to my mind is kind of derivative, kind of easily spottable influence on the arm sleeves, and I thought, well, maybe there's no new ground being broken here, and kind of same old, but give them A for effort or whatever. And then the same thing happened to me. I gave it a repeat listen, and then it just slowly but surely started to get its little tender hooks into my flesh, and with each repeated listen I grew to like the album more and more, and then you can't obviously knock them for their influences. They put their own spin on it, I would think, but all the stuff that we like is apparent in these songs. So I was really glad that you turned me on to them, and hopefully we'll hear more from them down the road, maybe.
Right. They actually do have some new music, which we'll discuss later in this.
Well, how did they get started anyways? I mean, I know that this new stuff is like, a 30-year rework and everything like that, but this goes back to 89. Why don't you tell me a little bit about them?
So they formed back in 1989 in South Wales, and there was a pretty active glam rock scene that was going on over there with a lot of sleaze bands, the Dogs D'Amour, Last of the Teenage Idols, and then Gunfire Dance, who we've discussed in a previous episode.
And this had to be right around the tail end, right? Because grunge had to be not not too far behind this, so this had to be the tail end of a movement, right?
Yeah, grunge was knocking at the door when they would have first formed.
Well, who was in the lineup?
They have a pretty good blend of personalities. You have a gravelly voiced vocalist, Gaz Tidy.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, apparently not. And then you have the two guitarists, Jamesy and Jonesy, a drummer named Denley Slade. Denley.
Bring the car around, Denley.
And then you had the bassist, Hollywood Mike D'Souza. Isn't that a very British-sounding name?
So,
D'Souza.
You're all from Wales, right? And everybody, Hollywood Mike.
Yeah. Well, that huge connection between Hollywood and Wales.
Yeah. Cool.
And this band's sound is gritty but melodic, and they definitely pull that swagger from the Rolling Stones and the glam punk edge of the New York Dolls, Hanoi Rocks, the usuals.
Yeah, that Rolling Stones Exile on Main Street time period, Sticky Fingers time period.
Yeah, it's clear in their music that's an influence on them. But after the band initially gets together with the 5 members, they end up going in and recording a 4-song demo that they titled The Agony and the Ecstasy of Sister Morphine. And this was recorded in Chariot Studios over in Cardiff.
In 1989?
Yep.
1989 they recorded this 4-song demo.
Yeah, as soon as they formed, signed the last guy up and walked right into the studio.
All right.
And the band, I guess they made a really good name for themselves on the local scene. They got to play the legendary venues over there like Bogies over in Cardiff.
Oh, the famous Bogies in Cardiff.
They built up a really good local following, and it was good enough that they got to open up shows for bands like the Silver Hearts, and then, as mentioned once before, Gunfire Dance. But despite this early promise, they never really got the breakthrough that I feel like the band deserved. In a recent interview, vocalist Gaz states, quote, "It wasn't that we didn't have the songs. We had great material, but timing and circumstances just didn't align. We found ourselves treading water. We had a couple of management agreements, but found ourselves looking for new representation." In 1991, just as the band's preparing to release a new 4-track single, the band members end up going their separate ways.
We're out of here, lads.
According to Gaz, the band was basically at a dead end. They're struggling to secure proper management and didn't feel like they were getting anywhere. And he was offered an opportunity to write about pop culture and cult movies, which apparently is a passion project for him.
Wouldn't it be for anybody?
Yeah, definitely would.
I get to write about pop culture and cult movies? Sign me up.
Yeah.
This movie's called Zardoz. What?
And the band did try to carry on with a new singer, but it just didn't work out. So Sister Morphine put in the back corner, and really for decades, their story was basically finished.
So we'd like to play a little bit for you of Sister Morphine's music, and we'd like to start out with the song titled Sea of Love. So here it is, Sister Morphine, Sea of Love. Turn it up.
Seem like forever I've been lying here.
let's fast forward to the 2020s.
Do we have to?
There's the global pandemic, and everybody's stuck at home with way more downtime than they ever expected to have. During this time, Gaz, who was recovering from a knee injury,
About me knee, lads.
he begins digitizing old rehearsal tapes from Sister Morphine's early days. And I guess this nostalgic journey, he ends up unearthing some long-lost songs that he'd forgotten all about. Some of these songs existed only in rough rehearsal tapes. So after digitizing them, he starts sharing these recordings with his former bandmates. And this really sparked a renewed enthusiasm amongst the band. And they decide, hey, let's get back together and give this another shot.
All right, let's get him back in the band.
To quote Gaz,
What's the writer?
hearing those tapes again was like stepping into a time machine. We realized we had unfinished business. It was kind of a weird setup. The band ends up working out the songs over online messaging apps.
What?
Yeah, different day, different age for sure.
Well, I'm going to send you the file, and then you're going to put your shit on it, and then send the file back to me. What's a file?
The file's not opening. So the band, once they worked everything out, they end up gathering at Red Rock Studios over in Blackwood, and they record their debut album. And handling the production duties.
30 years later, right?
Right, 30 years.
Okay,
30 years
our
in the
debut.
Handling the production duties was Lyndon Price of Welsh metal legends Wild Pussy.
It's so much more fun than Tame Pussy.
Always more fun than Tame Pussy.
Shoegazer band,
Right.
Okay, so at this point, why not play a little bit more Sister Morphine music? I mean, you guys aren't going anywhere, so we'd like to insert the song Nothing Dirty by Sister Morphine. Here we go.
Here we go. Nothing dirty but the truth. So moving up to February of 2023, Sister Morphine officially makes their comeback with the release of the album Ghost of Heartbreak City.
Again, I know I've said this a couple of times before, I have the cassette. This is from 1989 to 2023, and this is our debut release of Ghosts of Heartbreak City, right?
Yeah, so it took them a little while to get their shit together. Just a couple of decades. But
they got tour support.
I think they're in arrears to their record label by quite a bit of money at this point.
What did they sign their contract in charcoal?
Right.
Like a cave painting.
Right. They were like 12 years old when they signed up. Now they're in their 50s.
I almost get a pension from this band.
And this 15-track album features reimagined versions of 10 of their original songs.
I'm going to imagine them, then I'm going to reimagine them. and hope you buy them again. Well, our debut album.
But there's also 4 brand new tracks that really captures the band's classic rock and roll essence. The title track has been particularly well received. Critics have praised Ghost of Heartbreak City for its authentic rock and roll spirit. Louise Swift of Planet Mosh, well, she gave it 5 stars and notes it will appeal to the fans of Dogs D'Amour, Hanoi Rocks, Choir Boys, Rolling Stones.
The usual suspects.
Right, all the good ones, all good company. And the website VGlam, well, they highlighted the band's seamless return to form and emphasized how their dedication to capturing the raw, unpolished energy of the early days really pays off. And RPM Online celebrates the band's ability to stay true to their roots while also producing music that feels fresh and relevant.
Well, one would think, despite the hiatus, if you kept up with your instrument or whatever, musicians only get better when they age. I mean, there's an argument to be made about that. They may not leap about the stage like they once did, but they can still play the shit out of their instruments.
I'm going to stand here and play the fuck out of this thing.
Only get better with time.
Let's listen to some of that title track, Ghost of Heartbreak City. This is a really fun, quick-moving song, a real bouncy, just full of catchy hooks. Just a really great listen.
If you love someone, you don't bail out. Come on!
This band's influences can be traced pretty easily when you listen to this album. I mean, like we mentioned before, obviously there's the Dogs D'Amour, Hanoi Rocks, you got the Faces, the Choir Boys, the Stones, all obvious big influences. But according to Gaz, his voice, that gravelly voice, he hits into that Zodiac Mind Warp territory, which might seem out of place, but really he says that's one of his major influences as a vocalist.
Now, I have a person that actually made made me a mixtape eons ago, and of the 3 things that were on that cassette tape, which I still own to this day,
Of course.
was the band Zodiac Mind Warp. And it's pretty funny because, that guy's got a voice and a half. Yeah. Kind of a mild single, something about a hot dog mama or something along those lines. But yeah, Zodiac Mind Warp.
Yeah, they are a mind trip. This album really has everything I love in music. This has got that bluesy swagger, the bouncy barroom piano, super catchy songs, and just hooks out the ass. I mean, it's just really a fun listen. I wouldn't say it's a perfect album, but on a scale of 1 to 10, it's easily 8.5 out of 10. There's probably a couple songs, if they had left off, that would have tightened it up and made it pretty close to a solid 10. But Sister Morphine isn't just resting on their laurels after releasing Ghost of Heartbreak City.
After 30 years.
Right. They've had enough time to rest, but they're hitting the road and they're trying to reconnect with old fans, but also trying to win over new fans. And they've been playing clubs and festivals all over England, but I doubt we're going to be able to see them anytime soon over here in the States.
Ooh, and it's coming to the States. Ooh.
But guitarist Jamesy says that it's been really incredible to get back on the stage. The energy from the crowd is electric. It's like we just never left.
Easy for you to say. Step into the 30-year time machine.
Right. You've had time to get your shit together. But, with the band reaching a broader audience now, Sister Morphine's still keeping their nose at the grindstone. I mean, it's no 30 years between releases here.
There's none of that time off. We've been working this entire time, lads.
So in September of 2024, they released a new double B-side single containing the songs Werewolves of Suburbia and I'm Up for Letting You Down. These 2 new songs show that the band's still firing on all cylinders with the songwriting and performing.
Well, I guess after telling us all those wonderful things, Andy, I guess Sister Morphine's story is a reminder it's, I guess, never too late to chase your dreams. I mean, how many times are we going to say 30 years? But shit, 30 years.
30 years is a long time.
After that music was nearly lost, they've proven that, I guess their passion for music, their obvious perseverance, and, of course, a bit of nostalgia. If you add all that stuff up, it can lead to something extraordinary. Their story is a testament to the enduring power, I guess, of rock and roll.
Yeah. And if you're a fan of the swaggering rock and roll, if you're not a fan of it, what the hell are you doing listening to us? But if you're a fan of that swaggering rock and roll, do yourself a favor and check out Ghost of Heartbreak City. It's just a great album, and definitely give it more than one spin to make sure you really get the whole effect of it. It's worth the repeated listens. To close out this segment on Sister Morphine, we're going to play a bit of the song Werewolves of Suburbia, one of their newest releases.
And actually, this is a damn good song. Turn this one up, peeps. Hey, thanks for sticking around for part 2 of our episode. I'm going to be handling a band called The Sweet Things out of New York City. This band was once described as the New York Dolls playing Exile on Main Street.
It's a good comparison.
You know, according to writer Andy Thorley, the story goes that it was at Sid Eisenstein's son's bar mitzvah.
Can you get more Jewish?
In the Catskills, maybe, in New York, where the 4 members of the Sweet Things, they first met. It's Sid Eisenstein's son's bar mitzvah.
Classic rock and roll story.
I guess the band, they formed in 2015, and the Sweet Things formed a band around the Bond based around the Rolling Stones, Johnny Thunders, Izzy Stradlin, Outlaw Country, the Blues, and a love for 70s arena rock. There wasn't a game plan. It was just about the music. They have been described as a buzzed-about, young, dirty rock and roll band specializing in a potent blend of New York Dolls-style trash rock served up with country-fried swagger and tight songwriting. Well, the band released their debut album titled In Borrowed Shoes, On Borrowed Time in May 2019 on the label Wendigo Productions / Spaghetti Town Records. And that album was produced by Matt Schiavelle, who recorded Debbie Harry and Courtney Love. And I guess the album was recorded in New York City. And on that debut album, the 10-track album, well, it features guest musicians Alejandro Escovedo. Mm-hmm. Say that 3 times fast.
I can't say it once fast.
Well, anyways, they had Alejandro on vocals. They had, unbelievably, the Uptown Horns, who were famous for being on, I don't know, Rolling Stones recordings, James Brown's recordings. They were renowned for being, you know, a really good horn section. Mm-hmm. They also added Brian Hurd of beloved blues band Daddy Longlegs on harmonica. And they additionally added or had Rob Clores of the Black Crows on keyboards, who apparently took over after keyboard player Ed Harsh for the Crows passed away. And then finally they rounded out with Boogie Queen, known as Boogie Queen Liza or Lisa Colby on the gospel vocals. I guess, you know, imagine if the 1972 Stones were exiled in New York's East Village instead of the south of France, I guess.
Right. And then throw in the Dolls and the Faces as influences as well with that Americana. It's a real melting pot.
Yeah, you can kind of see where this is going by the obvious guests that they have employed and where they're getting their influences from. To quote writer Andy Thorley again, the very first taste of In Borrowed Shoes, On Borrowed Time, the album track Dead or Worse, is a cautionary tale born from blackout nights, getting hog-tied and thrown out of bars for throwing shot glasses at walls, and vomiting in your girlfriend's panty drawer. This track features dueling, nicotine-stained vocals, a rhythm section that understands Motown and the finer aspects of Jack Daniels, and slide guitar melodies that swerve and sway like a DUIer on the loose. Here's some of that song, Dead or Worse, from the Sweet Things debut album, In Borrowed Shoes, On Borrowed Time. Turn it up.
Listening to this song, it just makes you feel like you should be sitting there watching this band, getting shit-faced in a seedy bar in New York City and just like living your best life.
Yeah, you would think, right? Well, before this album, The Sweet Things earned raves for its two previous singles. Classic Rock magazine featured the band's single titled Slather on their May 2018 issue compilation CD and raved, "Imagine a world where bedraggled glam bangers like the New York Dolls, Hanoi Rocks, and the Choir Boys stayed young and skinny and good-looking forever. That's the Sweet Things. Dig in." The band's first official single, Liquor Lightning, is the kind of roll 'em and shake 'em ditty that you last hear before you end up in the hospital with your jaw wired shut. Here's a couple of minutes of the track Liquor Lightning from the Sweet Things debut album, In Borrowed Shoes, on Borrowed Time.
Sometimes a lie ain't a lie. It's just a polite way to say go fuck yourself right. Sometimes too much context takes on meaning away. Going on and on can mask nothing to say. So now that I'm living in you, you don't remember, you can never forget. Yeah. Liquor lightning, baby. Liquor lightning all night long. Liquor lightning, baby. Liquor lightning on my soul. Liquor lightning, baby. Liquor lightning all night long. Liquor lightning, baby. Liquor lightning on my soul. Here we go. Here we go, I said. The truth is there's nothing to do with what I think. Care about momentum and other unforeseen things. You can't freak out every time you're bumping a death and not shocking. And what fun is that? So now that I'm living a dreamy you never remember, you can never forget. Yeah. Liquor lightning, baby. Liquor lightning all night long. Liquor lightning, baby. Liquor lightning on my soul. Liquor lightning, baby. Liquor lightning all night long. Liquor lightning, baby. Liquor lightning on my soul. Here we go. Here we go, I said.
The band released their second full-length album, Brown Leather, on June 3rd, 2022. Founding members Dave Turney, who is obviously lead vocals and rhythm guitar, Sam Harris on bass and vocals. Well, on this album, they've been joined by new members, Nashville string bender and slide guitar master Tobin Dale on guitar, and Bronx-born, but Queens-raised, Hector Lopez on drums. Brown Leather began its recorded life at Fame Studio in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, and while the finishing touches were done back at home in the East Village, New York at Flux Studio and Mercy Sound, and featured a cast of guest musicians from all over the New York scene, past and present.
I was surprised when this album took on a more country rock feel. That kind of took me by surprise, but I really like the way this album goes. It definitely has a couple of rockers, but it's just twangy, raucous, and really super catchy.
Well, yeah, I think the first album was a little bit more reckless, and to me, it sounded like all the vocals were double tracked, and not by the same by the vocalist, by two people singing all the words to the verse. That seems to be toned down on the new album, Brown Leather. It seems like they've taken a little bit more of a mature approach, as I imagine they would as they gain confidence and experience as musicians. Mm-hmm. But, you know, on the evolution of the band's sound, Dave said, I really had this kind of idea where we wanted this band to go. And that stems from back a while ago. And I think the amount of time it took to get this record was kind of the amount of time to kind of bring it from the brain to the hand, I guess. I'd never recorded a record before the last record, and so having all these tools at our disposal was a bit jarring and really learning what not to do. I feel like the last record was pretty much a kitchen sink. Yeah, we can use it, throw it on there. And now you can be a little bit more selective and kind of like the song, let the song speak for themselves. And at the same time, as the songs are percolating, and it takes a little longer because, you know, of the pandemic, so you can really give yourself enough time to be objective with them. And our songwriting was definitely moving in a different direction. We're not the kind of guys who want to make the same record twice. We were stoked about In Borrowed Shoes on Borrowed Time when we did it. We don't want to make the same record twice. We're going to make a new one. But for instance, we were saying Tobin is such a good fit, but a third to half the songs were written by the time we started playing with him, so we were already moving in that direction. We wear a lot of our influences on our sleeve, but on this record is a lot of different kind of singer-songwriters that we've both been listening to that maybe, I don't know if they come through or not. A lot of classic country stuff, a lot of outlaw country. I guess you're directly influenced by what you're listening to, especially if it's music, in that case, very much so. But yeah, I think I can listen to the record and think of any song and be like, oh, that was that point when I was really listening to that, or when Dave was talking about that. It's really a reflection of what we are listening to at the time. I think those influences are, you know, very easily seen. For those of you who would like to get a visual on the band to see what they were about, there are 4 official music videos available on YouTube. They're from all 2 years ago. They are titled Ain't Got Enough Room in My Heart, You Know I Don't Mind, and then the new one, Brown Leather and Liquor Lightning, which is from 5 years ago. They also have 2 live videos that were recorded at Sony Hall in New York City, and they are Love to Leave and the title track of the second album, Brown Leather. They were the support act for Faster Pussycat and LA Guns on June 6, 2022. So that's where that video is from, and lots of good fun there. We'd like to play you one more song from Brown Leather. Here's a bit of the rework classic, It Hurts Me Too, from the Sweet Things and their second LP, Brown Leather. And this is a really good cover of a classic tune, so give it a listen. Here it is.
I
You know, their debut album, In Borrowed Shoes on Borrowed Time, it's, to me, a real dirty masterpiece. It's raw. It's brimming with that undeniable New York City attitude, with tracks like Dead or Worse, Almost Faded, Cracks of the City. These are a testament to their ability to capture the highs and lows of life with a pure rock and roll energy and attitude. That album's a little bit darker, a little dirtier, and it's a swaggering masterpiece to me, and it just demands to be played at full volume. Brown Leather took everything we loved about the debut, dressed it up in a country rock outfit, and it still has all that sleazy swagger, and the songs, they're a little more twangy and raucous, but they're still super catchy and still fantastic.
Well, I don't know. They keep getting compared to the Stones. Yeah. I guess, like you said, bassist Sam Harris states that somebody said it was like if you took the New York Dolls and tried to record the Stones' Beggar's Banquet and failed miserably.
This is one of those bands that they're masters of that very loose but tight musical style. One of those where the songs sound like they're going to fall apart at any minute. This whole show is going to go off the rails, but somehow they managed to make it across the finish line.
Isn't that a classic case of where that phrase comes from, loosely tight?
Yeah, I believe so.
Well, look, lads, I know the red light's on. I know you're recording, but play like you're just relaxed. Well, then somebody fucking cover up that red light with some masking tape or something. Yeah. Shitting bricks over here.
Right.
Time is money, Glenn Johns. So I think that's going to wrap up this episode on these two bands. And thank you guys for hanging out and listening for the while that you have. Turn your friends onto the podcast if you like it. And we'll be seeing you again in another couple of episodes down the road. And Andy, what do you got to say?
If you're looking for something to spice up your playlist with some real deal rock and roll, check out both The Sweet Things and Sister Morphine. They should be top of your list to check out. Definitely listen to In Borrowed Shoes on Borrowed Time and Ghosts of Heartbreak City. And trust me, you'll want to play these records really loud. And these aren't bands that are just copying musical heroes. They're really forging their own path and creating music that, even though it's based in the past, it's still current and it's authentic and it's full of life.
What more could you ask for?
Right.
Full of death. That brings the show down. What a drag. What a bummer. Full of life is the way to go.
Right. We're not doing the goth side on this show.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We truly appreciate your time, and please share us with your friends and reach out to us on social media. And remember, keep it trashy.
Keep it trashy.
And to our fallen comrade, Mr. Mink, I think Pink Floyd said it best. Wish you were here. You're here in spirit, brother.
Godspeed, Mink, wherever you may be.
You've been listening to the Rock and Roll Gutter Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the dirty world of rock and roll. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us reach more listeners like you.
And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rock and Roll Gutter Podcast for all the latest updates, news, and more.
Got questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes? Reach out to us at rnrguttermail@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you.
So join us again next time for another wild ride through the raw and gritty side of rock and roll. So until then, keep it trashy.